The galaxy stretched out like an endless sea of stars, home to countless civilizations, each with its own stories, struggles, and triumphs. Among these, Earth had always been seen as a small, unassuming world, rich with potential, but yet to make a mark on the vast cosmic stage. Humanity had long sent peaceful signals into space, hoping to make contact with other life forms. Some messages were met with curiosity, others with indifference. But for the most part, Earth remained an enigma to the stars. That was, until the Varkari arrived. A species unlike any other, their ships appeared without warning, entering Earth's orbit in perfect formation. They claimed to be diplomats, representatives of a vast intergalactic alliance seeking peaceful relations and unity. At first, their words were charming, their promises alluring. They spoke of knowledge, of trade, of exploration. They seemed eager to join Earth in a new chapter of interstellar harmony. But behind their polished exterior, there was something unsettling. Something about their demeanor felt off. Earth's leaders were cautious. Though their technology was advanced, the Varkari were far from transparent. Hidden beneath their words was a subtle arrogance, an air of superiority that made some question their true motives. As Earth's scientific teams began to monitor the Varkari's ship movements, strange readings began to appear. Ships that were supposed to be peaceful diplomats were carrying weaponry far beyond what was necessary for negotiations. Strange energy signatures were detected in the heart of their vessels, and intelligence reports hinted at odd, unspoken actions behind closed doors. The subtle signs grew harder to ignore. Something wasn't right. In a rare moment of unity, the nations of Earth gathered to make their decision. Earth's leaders knew that they couldn't afford to be naive. They had to act. With one voice, they sent a warning to the Varkari. Leave our system now or face the consequences. The message was clear. Humanity would not allow itself to be taken advantage of. But the Varkari, confident in their technological superiority, dismissed the warning as a mere threat. They believed Earth to be weak, its people naive, and its military strength nothing more than an illusion. The Varkari commanders saw no reason to heed such a warning. After all, they had conquered countless worlds, and Earth was just one small, insignificant speck in the vastness of space. But they were gravely mistaken. Earth's military might, though young in comparison to the ancient civilizations of the stars, was far from unprepared. The moment the Varkari ignored the warning, Earth's fleet mobilized. Dozens of warships, each one bristling with advanced weaponry, launched from Earth's spaceports, quickly assembling in the dark void. The Varkari, confident in their superiority, watched as the ships approached, only to realize they were surrounded. In an instant, the Varkari found themselves trapped, their once proud fleet encircled by Earth's ships, each one positioned perfectly to prevent any possible escape. Panic began to spread among their ranks as they realized they were no longer in control. They had underestimated humanity's resolve. Earth's warships were not only technologically advanced, but also operated with an unshakable sense of purpose. The human military, having endured countless hardships on Earth, knew how to fight, not just with technology, but with strategy, adaptability, and sheer will. The Varkari attempted to engage their superior engines and weapons, trying to break free, but Earth's fleet had already anticipated every move. For the first time in their long, storied history, the Varkari were the ones who were cornered. They had never encountered an enemy who could stand against them so fiercely, so unyieldingly. It was then that the Varkari realized the truth. They had made a grave mistake. This was not going to be an easy conquest. The humans had no interest in diplomacy anymore. Earth was not going to bend to their will. This was no longer a negotiation. It was a fight for survival. With their paths of escape blocked, The Varkari were left with nothing but the cold, unforgiving reality of what they had unleashed. The final line was drawn. Earth's resolve was clear. This was just the beginning. The Varkari had ignored Earth's warning, and now they would learn the consequences of that mistake. As the Varkari fleet found themselves cornered by Earth's warships, a sense of disbelief washed over their commanders. They had faced countless civilizations, easily overwhelming them with their advanced technology, superior firepower, and vast knowledge. They assumed that Earth, a relatively young player in the galactic stage, would fall into their hands without a fight. But they had miscalculated, and now they were beginning to realize just how grave their mistake was. Humanity's military was unlike anything they had expected. At first, the Varkari believed Earth's warships were simply powerful, machines relying on brute force and outdated tactics. They had underestimated humanity's resourcefulness. What the Varkari didn't understand was that Earth's forces were not just technologically advanced. They were unpredictable, adaptive, and willing to sacrifice convention for innovation. Earth's commanders had long studied the art of war, knowing that winning wasn't just about firepower. It was about the ability to think on your feet, to read your enemies, and to bend the rules of battle to your advantage. The Varkari soon discovered that Earth's warships were not only equipped with impressive weaponry, but also displayed a level of strategic flexibility they had never seen before. The human fleet maneuvered through the vast emptiness of space, as if it were a battlefield of endless possibilities, using everything from asteroid fields to gravitational anomalies to their advantage. The Varkari, on the other hand, had relied on traditional tactics, simple, straightforward, and expected. They quickly realized that every time they tried to push forward, the humans adapted, countered, and outwitted them. Earth's warships were, like shadows, slipping through their defenses, always staying one step ahead. The Varkari commanders were baffled. How could this be? These humans, these fragile beings who had once lived in caves and struggled to survive on their primitive planet, were now showing the greatest resilience and cunning. The Varkari had believed they were invincible, but the sight of Earth's fleet bending and weaving through the battle like a living organism shattered that illusion. Desperation began to set in. In an effort to regain control, the Varkari attempted to communicate, sending a transmission to Earth's fleet. Their words were laced with false humility, pleading for negotiations, offering a truce, or even suggesting a partnership. But the response they received was far from what they had hoped. Earth's fleet commanders, calm and resolute, made it clear that negotiations would only happen on Earth's terms, and that terms would only be discussed once the Varkari showed they understood the strength of humanity's resolve. The Varkari's pleas fell on deaf ears. This wasn't the same kind of negotiation Earth had once offered. This was about survival, about proving to the galaxy that humanity could not and would not be ignored or underestimated. Meanwhile, on Earth, the entire world watched the unfolding events. The media outlets erupted with news of the battle, and every citizen felt a deep sense of pride. Humans, once thought to be insignificant in the grand expanse of the universe, were now proving that they could stand toe-to-toe with any alien race. The Varkari, for all their technological might, were being outwitted by the very species they had once dismissed. Earth's media broadcasted stories of the warship's ingenuity and tactical brilliance, celebrating the human spirit that refused to back down. From the largest cities to the smallest villages, people rallied together, united, in their support for the military. Humanity's newfound strength became a symbol, a testament to the determination that ran through the veins of every human, from the soldiers in space to the citizens cheering back home. It was a feeling of unity, unlike anything the world had ever experienced. As the battle raged on, the Varkari began to sense a shift in the atmosphere. They had come to conquer, but now they were the ones who had to fight for their survival. They had hoped to crush Earth's spirit with a single strike, but instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous: The Varkari soon realized that Earth was no longer a peaceful planet, ready to negotiate. It was a force to be reckoned with. They had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. The war had only just begun, but one thing was clear: Earth would never surrender. The Varkari fleet, realizing their once confident plan had crumbled, quickly scrambled to formulate a new strategy. The human blockade had them trapped, and there was no way out. They attempted to break free, sending waves of ships in all directions. But Earth's warships were waiting, each one strategically placed at key locations in the void of space, creating a massive, unyielding wall. With the Varkari fleet now surrounded, Earth's ships didn't just rely on brute force. They used the very environment of space itself to their advantage. Advanced gravitational technology, developed over decades of research, allowed Earth's fleet to position themselves in such a way that every hyperspace lane and warp point was cut off. The Varkari, desperate to escape, found themselves locked into a trap they couldn't fathom. Every route they attempted to take led them straight back into the crushing force of Earth's encirclement. There was nowhere to run. There was no escape. As the days turned into weeks, the pressure on the Varkari began to build. Their ships, once brimming with confidence, now seemed to show signs of stress. Desperation began to set in. They launched desperate measures, attempting to hack into Earth's communication networks, hoping to sow confusion among the human fleet. Advanced drones were deployed, trying to slip through the blockade and find a way to break the siege. But the humans were always one step ahead. The warship's AI systems, built with human ingenuity and the lessons learned from countless battles, were designed to anticipate every move. Each time the Varkari attempted a maneuver, the humans had already calculated a countermeasure. Every drone, every signal, every trick was met with precision and determination. The Varkari were being pushed back at every turn. Their advanced technology, though impressive, could not overcome the tactical brilliance of Earth's forces. The Varkari commanders, who had once been so confident, now found themselves growing increasingly frustrated and fearful. Their options were dwindling, and the realization that they could not break free from the blockade slowly settled in. Back on Earth, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The media was filled with reports of the ongoing siege, and citizens watched in a mix of awe and anxiety as their forces held the line. The fear was real. There was no guarantee of victory. But the collective will of humanity was stronger than ever. People rallied behind their military, sending messages of support, and volunteers signed up in droves to join the effort, even if it was just to provide aid to the soldiers. The streets buzzed with conversations of hope and determination. The people of Earth had become a united force, driven by the shared belief that they could not and would not be conquered. Earth's leaders understood the gravity of the situation and issued a direct message to the Varkari: surrender or face total destruction. The terms were clear. The Varkari had no other choice but to submit. There was no way for them to continue the fight, and if they didn't yield, Earth would make sure there was nothing left of their fleet. The ultimatum sent ripples throughout the galaxy. The Varkari, once a proud and seemingly unbeatable species, were now on the brink of defeat, their reputation shattered by the resilience of a small planet they had once written off as insignificant. On the Varkari ships, tension was palpable. Among the commanders, there were whispers of mutiny and fear. Many had come to see the true power of humanity, not just in technology, but in spirit. This was no ordinary race. The Varkari had underestimated the depths of human determination, and now they were paying the price. Earth's warships continued to hold their position, the silent message from their commanders clear: no escape, no mercy. The siege would not end until the Varkari accepted humanity's terms. And so, as the days stretched on, the Varkari fleet was slowly cornered, with no way to break free. The standoff had become a symbol to the galaxy of what could happen when a powerful force dared to underestimate the will of Earth. The future of the Varkari hung in the balance, and the tension continued to mount, with every moment feeling like it might be the one to tip the scales in humanity's favor. Frustration had reached a boiling point among the Varkari fleet. Despite their advanced technology and superior weaponry, they were being cornered by humanity's relentless determination. Their every move was countered, their every attempt at escape thwarted. The Varkari had underestimated Earth's resilience, and now they were paying the price. The stakes were higher than ever, and their leaders knew that they had to do something drastic, something that would turn the tide of the battle. In a final act of desperation, the Varkari decided to deploy their ultimate weapon, a superweapon capable of annihilating entire planets with a single devastating strike. It was a weapon unlike anything Earth had ever seen, a force so powerful it could wipe out cities, continents, and potentially the entire planet. They knew it was a last-ditch effort, but they hoped it would break Earth's resolve and force humanity to bow to their superior might. The Varkari began a covert operation to activate the weapon, carefully hiding their movements from Earth's watchful eyes. However, they made a critical mistake. They underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and respond quickly. Earth's intelligence networks, ever vigilant, intercepted the Varkari's plan. The moment the Varkari began to deploy the superweapon, Earth's fleet commanders were already aware of the threat. The human military had been monitoring every move the Varkari made, and they knew that if this weapon were allowed to activate, it could be the end of everything. The time for negotiation was over. Earth had already sent its warning, and now it was time for action. Without hesitation, Earth's fleet mobilized, ready to take on this new and terrifying threat. The warships adjusted their tactics, calculating the weapon's potential path and finding a way to neutralize it. As the Varkari initiated the weapon systems, they thought they had the upper hand. But what they didn't realize was that humanity had been preparing for this moment all along. Earth's warships quickly adapted, using their superior knowledge of the enemy's technology to launch a daring counterattack. The human fleet's AI systems, constantly analyzing and learning from the Varkari's movements, found a weakness in the superweapon's core systems. With a risky and bold move, Earth's warships hacked into the weapon, bypassing its defenses and gaining control of the weapon's systems. The tables turned quickly. The Varkari, who had thought they held the ultimate advantage, were now facing the very weapon they had hoped would secure their victory turned against them. The chase across the stars was on. The Varkari scrambled to regain control, desperate to stop Earth from using their own superweapon against them. A nerve-wracking pursuit ensued, with Earth's warships racing to keep the weapon in their hands while the Varkari launched everything they had to wrest it back. The battle was fast and chaotic, a high-stakes race for control that stretched across the stars. Humanity's warships, agile and adaptive, used their superior maneuverability to stay one step ahead of the Varkari's desperate efforts to recapture the weapon. Every moment was a calculated risk, but Earth's forces were determined to succeed. In the heart-stopping final moments of the battle, the human fleet managed to destroy the superweapon in a spectacular display of power and precision. The weapon, once a symbol of the Varkari's dominance, was reduced to nothing. More than debris in the cold void of space. With the weapon gone, the Varkari's remaining forces were left reeling, unsure of how to proceed. The human fleet had proven that no matter the odds, they could adapt, overcome, and turn the tables. The message was clear: if you attack us, if you challenge us, you will face the wrath of our full power. The Varkari were forced to rethink their entire strategy. Their once unstoppable forces had been outwitted and outmaneuvered by a race they had dismissed as inferior. Earth had sent a message to the galaxy, a message that would echo for generations to come. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated, and it would not go down without a fight. The loss of their superweapon had been a devastating blow to the Varkari, shaking their confidence and forcing them to reconsider their approach. Direct combat had failed them, and they were left with no choice but to resort to subtler methods. Their once proud fleet was trapped, unable to escape Earth's unyielding blockade, and their morale was quickly crumbling. In their desperation, the Varkari leadership turned to espionage, hoping to weaken Earth from within. They deployed a network of spies, secretly infiltrating Earth's cities, military bases, and critical infrastructure. Their plan was simple: sabotage Earth's defense systems, disrupt communication networks, and sow chaos in the heart of human civilization. They believed that if they could fracture humanity's unity, they might finally break the siege. However, the Varkari had gravely underestimated Earth's preparedness. Having faced centuries of adversity and fought countless battles, both internal and external, humans had learned to protect what mattered most. Earth's security measures were tighter than ever, with intelligence networks constantly on the lookout for any sign of infiltration. The Varkari spies, moving through the cities in the shadows, thought they were blending in. They thought they could quietly sabotage critical systems without anyone noticing. But Earth's military and intelligence services were always a step ahead. Advanced surveillance systems and a deep-seated vigilance across Earth's forces meant that the slightest anomaly was quickly detected. One by one, the infiltrators were uncovered and neutralized before they could do any real damage. No secret mission went undetected for long, and the Varkari found themselves frustrated at every turn. The human capacity for vigilance and adaptability had thwarted their every attempt to sow discord from within. As Earth's warships continued their unyielding blockade in space, the Varkari forces found themselves in an increasingly dire position. The siege had now stretched into months, and the frustration on the alien side was palpable. Their ships were running low on supplies, and the constant pressure of Earth's dominance began to take its toll. The once unified Varkari leadership began to fracture, with different factions emerging, each one blaming the other for their failure to defeat humanity. Tensions grew within their ranks, and the soldiers who had once been so confident in their mission began to question their cause. The morale of the Varkari forces continued to wane as the realization set in. They were stuck. The siege was not a temporary setback, it was their reality. They could not escape. They could not defeat Earth. The unity that had once been their greatest strength was now their greatest weakness. Doubt spread like a disease through the Varkari forces, and whispers of rebellion and surrender began to surface. The Varkari fleet was no longer the unstoppable force they had once been. Now, it was a fractured, demoralized group of invaders, trapped in a corner by a race they had underestimated. The humans, on the other hand, were as resolute as ever. Their warships maintained their positions with perfect coordination, always watching, always waiting for the next move. Earth's forces had grown more disciplined and united as the months passed. The shared struggle against the Varkari had brought humanity closer together. Citizens from every corner of Earth were supporting the military effort, and the war became not just a battle for survival, but a rallying cry for all of humanity. The people of Earth believed in their military, believed in their leaders, and most importantly, believed in themselves. In contrast, the Varkari could no longer claim such unity. Their leadership was crumbling under the weight of their failure, and their soldiers, once confident and proud, were now filled with doubt. It was becoming clear. Earth had not only withstood their invasion, but had turned the tide. The Varkari, unable to escape, unable to win, were left with only one choice: to surrender or face complete annihilation. The tipping point had arrived, and the balance of power was shifting irrevocably. The Varkari had pushed too far and had underestimated humanity at every step. Now, trapped by their own arrogance, they were about to discover just how strong the resolve of Earth truly was. As the Varkari leadership faltered, and their unity began to crumble, Earth's military leaders saw the perfect opportunity to strike. The moment had come for a masterstroke, a move so bold and calculated that it would tip the scales of the war forever. The Varkari fleet was reeling from their continuous failures, their resources running low, and their morale at rock bottom. In their desperation, they turned to their most formidable vessel, the command ship that had been at the heart of the invasion. A massive fortress in space, it was the symbol of the Varkari's pride and power, the nerve center of their operations. If it fell, the Varkari forces would crumble, their leadership broken, and their remaining fleet would have no direction or purpose. Earth's military, understanding the gravity of the moment, devised a daring plan, an assault on the command ship itself. In a breathtaking display of coordination and tactical brilliance, Earth's warships bypassed conventional strategies. Instead of facing the Varkari head-on with brute force, they employed a strategic pincer maneuver, attacking from unexpected angles. The Varkari, already disoriented and weakened by months of siege, were caught completely off guard. The human fleet's movements were like a symphony, fluid, precise, and overwhelming. They struck swiftly, converging on the Varkari command ship from multiple directions, making it impossible for the aliens to mount a coherent defense. The Varkari ships, still reeling from their constant losses, scrambled to respond, but it was too late. Humanity's warships, fueled by a determination and unity the Varkari had failed to understand, pushed forward with unrelenting force. On board the Varkari command ship, the atmosphere was tense. The alien commanders had prepared for everything, except this. As human warships breached the outer defenses, the crew of the Varkari vessel realized they were facing a force unlike any other. The human soldiers were not just fighting to win a battle. They were fighting for their very survival, for their homes, their families, and everything they held dear. The Varkari commander, watching the battle unfold from the heart of the command ship, began to understand the true nature of humanity. It wasn't just Earth's advanced technology or overwhelming firepower that made them dangerous. It was something deeper, something far more elusive, their unyielding spirit. The Varkari, who had once believed themselves to be the supreme race, were now discovering that strength could come from more than just weapons and tactics. It could come from a belief in something greater than oneself. As the battle raged on, Earth's soldiers fought with a ferocity that the Varkari had never encountered before. The halls of the command ship became a brutal battleground, with soldiers from Earth pressing forward, pushing back the Varkari with every step. They fought as if they had nothing left to lose, because in their hearts, they knew they didn't. Each soldier was motivated by the same desire: to protect the planet they loved and to ensure that their children and future generations would never live under the shadow of an alien invader. The Varkari, despite their advanced technology and superior numbers, found themselves outmatched in a way they hadn't prepared for. Inside the command ship, the alien leadership was thrown into chaos. The human assault was like a tidal wave, unstoppable and overwhelming. The Varkari commander, now realizing that their forces were on the verge of collapse, could do nothing. But watch as the heart of their invasion fleet was torn apart. It wasn't just the weapons or the tactics that had turned the tide. It was the sheer willpower of humanity, a force that could not be broken or bent. The battle was a turning point, not just in the war, but in the Varkari's understanding of their opponents. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for resilience, and now they were paying the price. As Earth's forces pushed closer to the command center of the Varkari ship, the realization dawned on the commander. There was no escaping this. The Varkari had been defeated by something they could never have anticipated, something far more powerful than technology or firepower. It was humanity's spirit, its indomitable will to fight for survival. And as the final assault reached its climax, the once mighty Varkari command ship fell, its systems shutting down in a final, resounding crash. The Varkari forces were left in disarray, their leadership shattered, and their fleet leaderless. Humanity's victory was now certain. The Varkari had learned the hardest lesson of all. When they dared to challenge Earth, They had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. The Varkari, battered and broken, had finally come to a grim realization. Their defeat was inevitable. The human forces had crushed their once proud fleet, and now they were surrounded on all sides. With their command ship destroyed and their remaining forces scattered, the Varkari had nowhere to run. In their desperation, they sent out a final plea for mercy, hoping that perhaps after everything, humanity would show compassion. They promised peace, offering to cooperate and form an alliance with Earth in the future. They begged humanity to reconsider their course, to give them a chance to make amends. But the leaders of Earth had seen enough. They had witnessed the Varkari's relentless aggression, their complete disregard for human life, and their false promises of peace. The memory of the invasion, the lives lost, and the destruction inflicted upon their world weighed heavily on the hearts of Earth's leaders. There would be no more negotiations. Humanity had fought long and hard for its survival, and now it was time to send a clear message to the galaxy. The warships, having successfully surrounded the remaining Varkari fleet, moved in to take their final positions. This was not just a military victory. It was a statement, one that would resonate across the stars for centuries to come. The human fleet had the power to wipe out the Varkari, to annihilate their forces and erase their presence from the galaxy. But instead of delivering a crushing blow, Earth's commanders did something unexpected. They gave the Varkari a choice. It wasn't mercy, but rather a chance for the Varkari to save whatever little dignity they had left. The message sent to the Varkari was simple and direct: surrender their remaining forces, leave the system peacefully, and never return, or face utter destruction. It was a choice that left the Varkari with no options. Their fleet was destroyed, their leadership in shambles, and their warriors broken. The once mighty invaders, who had come to Earth with the intent of conquest, now had to swallow their pride and accept humanity's terms. The Varkari, realizing they had no other way out, reluctantly accepted. They had pushed humanity to the brink, and now they were forced to acknowledge that Earth would not back down. Humanity had proven its strength and resolve, and the Varkari could do nothing but concede defeat. The galaxy watched in silence as the Varkari fleet, once filled with the arrogance of a superior race, turned and began to retreat. Earth's victory was not just in the battle fought, but in the message it sent to the stars. Humanity would never be a race to be trifled with. The peace that followed was hard-earned. Earth had suffered greatly during the conflict, but it had emerged stronger, more united, and more determined than ever. The world, once divided by politics and differences, had come together in the face of an existential threat. The human spirit, tested by war, had been forged into something unbreakable. As the Varkari faded into the depths of space, their fleets never to return, Earth's reputation was solidified across the galaxy. Other species took notice, understanding the powerful lesson that had been learned. When humanity is pushed to the brink, it does not bend. It fights, and it fights with everything it has. The story of Earth's victory spread like wildfire, a cautionary tale for any race that thought it could challenge the will of humankind. The Varkari would never again challenge Earth, and no other species would dare. The galaxy had learned the hard truth: underestimate humanity, and you would pay the price. In the aftermath, Earth took steps to ensure peace, though it was a peace born of strength. Earth's leaders knew that the galaxy could be a dangerous place, full of ambitious and powerful species, but humanity, united and resolute, would always be ready. The final chapter of the Varkari War closed, and a new era began, one where humanity's place among the stars was no longer questioned. And as Earth looked to the future, it did so with the knowledge that no matter what challenges lay ahead, humanity would never back down.